Hello world. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever the case may be. For those jumping on that follow me, you know I'm running a little bit late today. Sorry for that. For those that don't know me, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Robert Fuller. I'm an individual that went from a life just immersed in horrible life choices, surrounded in violence, immersed in addiction, self-hatred, to an individual that now really enjoys life, that is excited to open his eyes in the morning, is building businesses. I do marketing and brand development consulting, inspirational speaking. So life has really transformed for me. I do these videos just to kind of share some of the insights, some of the struggles, some of the challenges, some of the difficulties that I've had to face and what it took me to get over them. Good morning, Miss Ted. Great to see you this morning. Good morning, Adam. Thank you for jumping on, sir. So I try to share with the world some of the things that I went through and some of the insights that I had to come to and some of the changes I had to make within myself to really grasp happiness in life and really to start producing in life. And I think that a lot of us face, I think we all face a lot of the same challenges, maybe in different fashions or forms or in different ways, but that, they're pretty common. Nothing's new under the sun, as they say. Good morning, Miss Pamela. Thanks for jumping on. I'm giving things time to let people jump on. Good morning, Joe. Thank you for jumping on, sir. I appreciate it. Before I forget, I have a dear friend that got checked into the hospital yesterday. He's a private individual, so I'm not going to mention his name, but just send some prayers up for him. Hoping he's doing well, hoping he gets healed quickly and gets back into his normal routine, because he's definitely an important person in my life and means a lot. For those that have followed my videos, and as you just heard, life was very different for me. I was a very different person. I had spent most of my life, I was out the house pretty much at the age, in and out the house as of the age of 15, and just spent most of my life always trying to be strong. Right? Spent most of my life always trying to be the strongest person in the environment, right? Always aggressive, thank you, Adam, I appreciate that. Always trying to capitalize, always trying to, just grab the victory, always trying to be the guy that ran the block. And I was good at it. The problem is that as I was convincing myself that I was so strong, as I was working so hard to be the strongest out there, that inside I was dying. And I think that this, we go through life thinking that that's the key, right? To become the strongest, to be the best, to learn everything and be the best at it. And I think that what happens is we start to develop this shell around ourselves. Hey, Chidnat, thanks for jumping on. It's so great to catch you live. That we start to develop this shell around ourselves, right? This shell around our hearts, this shell around our real spirit and soul, and we start believing that our mind is really who we are. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but what I was doing is I was setting myself up for failure. I was setting myself up for a breakdown. I was setting myself up to really crumble. Because here's the thing, right? The strongest things, hey, legend, Hanzo, thanks for jumping on, sir. The strongest things in the world aren't the ones that are the most, the hardest. They aren't the things that are the most rigid. Rigidity leads to fraction, right? If the right thing hits the most rigid of structures in the right way, it's going to crumble. The strongest things are the things that will bend with the things that life hands us. Now, the problem with me always focusing on being strong is that while I was insulating myself to the pain of the challenges of the situations that I was going through in life, I was also insulating myself from my real strength, right? I was building this shell around my true center, around who I was really in the middle. And so I was convincing myself I was strong, but what I was really doing was making myself weak. And I didn't realize it until that thing hit my shell. Until I went through enough and enough damage had been done to that shell that everything cracked. And when everything cracked, It left me in a position where I thought I was done for. My life fell apart. Who I was fell apart. Who I thought I was fell apart. All the things that I had leaned on for so long for strength, all the things that I had leaned on so long to create my life, all the things that I had leaned on so long to create my circumstances fell apart. And I was left with this mass in the middle that, because I had insulated myself so long, I didn't even know who it was. And what it really was my true self. What it really was my true center. What it really was where all my strength really was. And I didn't know it at the time. It took a lot of building. And trust me, in the beginning of this process, and this is a new process for me, I've only been really transforming myself for, I can really only give myself credit for about 3.5 years, right? Because in the first part, when I first hit that point where my life fell apart, I still tried to put the pieces back together of the shell that I had created, thinking that was really me. Thinking that what my mind was telling me was really who I was. The thing that I didn't realize is that I was unconsciously influenced by the people, the circumstances, the situations, the events around me so much that mind was just madness. Not to mention, your mind is meant for survival, right? And it's 2 million years old, and evolution works slow, so trust me, the mind hasn't evolved to the point where it actually takes into account what modern society looks like. Right? It's not equipped to deal with the challenges of modern society. It's equipped to deal with fight or flight. And most of modern society challenges isn't really life or death. I mean, don't get me wrong. I come from an environment where yes, life or death is every day. Where those challenges are every day. That's what created the shell around myself, because I had gotten tossed out into that environment, and I had put myself in a situation to get tossed out into that environment and have to eat in that environment, and so that's what my shell was created by. But the truth is that if you really want to excel in today's world, those aren't the most of the challenges that you're going to face. Right? Understanding how to do these videos and facing the fear of, am I going to trip all over myself? Am I going to deliver a message that resonates with people? Am I going to give a message that helps people? Or am I just going to look like an idiot with a tongue tie? That's not a challenge that results in life or death, right? But a lot of the challenges that we face are along that scope. And yet the shell that we've built around ourselves is built by a mind that's designed to deal with only those type of challenges for. And that shell that we create around ourselves, while we think it's so strong, really is the weakest thing that we can insulate ourselves with, because it deprives us of getting to the center. Good morning, Miss Stephanie. Thank you for jumping on. It prevents us from understanding what's really in our core, from seeing who we really are in our center. I didn't know that at the time. I didn't know that for most of my life. I didn't know that when I first started my initial journey. When I first started my transformation, I still tried to reconstruct that shell around myself, not realizing how truly weak that shell was. There's certain strengths that can only be developed in vulnerability. There's certain insights that we can only come to about ourselves when we've thrown off that shell and the fear that designed it, and be strong enough and be brave enough to reach into our core and see who's really in there. And I can tell you that the guy that had been built by that shell isn't nearly as beautiful as the guy that was in there that I had insulated myself from so long. And no matter what I achieved, no matter what I accomplished, because, along the way I made money, I did things, I had a reputation, I built myself up a reputation, I built a self-perspective, a self-image that I thought was, it felt good to be able to walk down the block and everybody knew who Robert Fuller was. But Robert Fuller wasn't nearly as happy, wasn't nearly as beautiful, wasn't nearly as powerful as who I'm becoming. And I would have never discovered who I'm becoming if I hadn't hit that point where that whole shell collapsed. where something finally made me crumble, where I finally hit that wall and couldn't pick the pieces up. Look, there's an exercise that I learned. You know, we design all this hard shell around ourselves, but there's an exercise that I learned, and it's called breathing into your heart. And there's physiological facts, there's scientific facts behind why this works, right? When you get stressed, when you get fearful, when you hit a challenge that you're not sure if you can deal with, if they took an EKG of your heart rhythm, you would see that, hey, Miss Jessica, thank you for jumping on this morning. You would see that the peaks and valleys would be very jagged. Usually, a heart rhythm has its waves to it, right? If you simply take your hand, put it over your heart, and breathe into your heart, what you'll see is that your heart rhythm goes from this up and down, jagged cliff type of pattern to a nice, even rhythm. That's where your flow is. That's where your center is. That's where your core is. And where your core is where your strength really is. Look, every day, I have to increase techniques. I have to learn new strategies. I have to put to work all of the information that I learn, all the research that I do. Hey, Miss Mary, thank you for jumping on. All the facts that I come across, right? Every day I work on two things: who I am and who I want to become, right? I can't help anybody. I can't grow anybody. I can't show anybody who they are, right? Because until a person decides to let that shell down and discover themselves, they'll never know it, right? Nobody teaches us anything, right? I don't care how powerful of a teacher they are. I don't care how much they understand. I don't care what they know. Hey, Lewin, thank you for jumping on. I don't care what they've been through. Nobody teaches us anything. We choose to learn or not to learn. We choose to grow or not to grow. All the answers are right in here. Now, it's whether or not we learn strategies, whether or not we learn techniques, whether or not we employ tools to get to here, right? The truth is universal. And I think we've all had the experience where we've heard a truth that just shot through all the bullshit that society and circumstances and situations and people around us have conditioned us to believe, that what our mind has told us, that just pierces straight through that and goes straight to the core, where we're like, wow. That's what truth is. But nobody teaches you that, right? You choose whether or not you hear it. You choose whether or not you shake off this rigid shell that you think is making you so strong, and choose to be vulnerable and choose to get to your center. Look, all I can do is share what my experiences are. I face challenges every day. I learn every day. I grow every day. I work on two things every day: who I am and who I want to become. I don't have the gaming going with it. And I'm nobody special. Trust me, if you saw my history, if you saw my life, if you saw the things that, you would understand just how I'm just as bad as everyone else. I was just as broken and just as filled with pain, just as filled with rage, just as filled with hatred, just as filled with self-hatred as so many people are. Angry, depressed. I've been there. I've done that. I still have to pull myself out of that mode more times than I would care to admit. But I finally, when I hit that wall and that shell of strength and that shell of false courage, that shell of arrogance, that shell of empty confidence, that shell of just of all the wrong things. It wasn't until I decided, or not even decided, right? It wasn't until life smacked that shell so hard that it just crumbled. And I was left like, who am I? What is life going to be? What will I ever have? What have I become? How miserable of a person am I? It wasn't until that day came that I even came close to understanding who was in here. And it wasn't until I came close to understanding who was in here that I really developed strength, that I really developed happiness, that I really developed a self-image with love and courage and understanding. And it wasn't until I developed that I actually started to love life. You know, I filled holes for so long in life with so much of the wrong things, with so many just bullshit things, false arrogance, false courage, brutal violence. It took me so long to get to the point in life where I can't wait to open my eyes in the morning, even in the midst of challenges. And trust me, I've spent the last week dealing with my own personal stuff, dealing with issues within myself, dealing with issues within my life that I've had to constantly recenter and lay myself back on the altar of happiness, lay myself back on the altar of focus, lay myself back on the altar of understanding. The process never stops. Growth is always continual. There's always something that's going to come your way that challenges your view, that challenges your happiness, that challenges your welfare. Those are the things that strengthen you. Not the shell that you try to fight them off with, but really digging it inside and understanding, what is it that I feel? And why is it that I feel it? And how should I direct this in a fashion that empowers me? I do these videos because it helps to ingrain in myself the strength, the courage, the patterns, the techniques, the skills. It helps me strengthen everything necessary to continue to grow my life in a fashion that I'm happy about, to continue to grow myself in a fashion that I love. I pray that the insights that I share resonate with people. I hope it helps people. Because I finally understand that it's not just about getting something for myself anymore. I finally understand how interconnected we really all are. I finally understand how much strength and how much power comes out of caring. The shell of strength that so many of us grasp at with a death grip was the same shell that prevents us from understanding where our real strength, where our real identity, where our real truths lie. And our real identity, our real strength, our real truths is what puts us in a life that we're happy with, that's fulfilling, that has real potential to take us to levels of joy, of accomplishment, of existence that the shell never let us see. So why was it so powerful for me to feel broken? Was because I had to break who I was to discover who I truly was meant to be. I hope this message helps. I hope that people find value in this. I would ask, if you do, please like, comment, share. Share your thoughts, right? Share what your insights are. Help the world grow. Help the world heal. It's enough. Turn on the news and see just the violence, the self-loathing, the hatred, the pain. See, I was watching a video, and you know, one of those social experiments where a guy was holding a sign where on it he said, "I need money for weed and drink." And they did it for an hour, and people put money in his cup. He did another hour of, "Good morning, Miss Sheila. Good morning, Miss Jamie. I'm sorry I didn't see you jump on. Desktop's still a little, I'm trying to get used to the format on desktop." He did another hour where he had a daughter laying on his lap with a sign, "I need money for family and food." And people walk by. We've become so insulated and so cynical and so jaded, thinking that that's what serves us. And yet the rates of depression are skyrocketing. The rates of anxiety are skyrocketing. When are we going to awaken? I thank God every day that my eyes have began opening, that my eyes have began to see where real value lies, where real power lies, where real happiness lies. And it's not dependent on my situations, my circumstances, on people. It's right here. And it took me 35 plus years to discover. If I save one person 1 year, 1 day of how long it would have took them to discover it, I'm happy. So thank you all for joining me this morning. Thank you all for those that follow me religiously. Thank y'all so much. Your energy, your feedback, your positivity helps to feed my process so much. I just pray that I help to feed yours as much. So, happy Wednesday! Hump Day! Christmas right around the corner. Holiday season. I know not everybody celebrates Christmas. I celebrate celebrations. I don't care what you're celebrating. Happy holidays, right? Thank you all for joining me. Enjoy your day.